Arizona's new immigration law puts sweeping new powers in the hands of police. Law enforcement unions have weighed in. Ines Ferre joining me now from New York to look at how officers view this new law. What are they saying to you, Ines?
Well, Tony, while some law enforcement officers may not agree with it, some big police unions are agreeing with it. And with us, we have Levi Bolton. He is with the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. They represent about 2,500 members. And this association also is one of several groups that helped draft the legislation. Mr. Bolton, thanks so much for being with us. And we want to know from you, why does your association feel that this law is necessary, and what does this do for your officers?
Well, first and foremost, the law has a lot of facets. To say that I have to compartmentalize it. Our involvement first came with our objection over Operation Order 1.4, basically making it problematic for a police officer to ask a person's legal status in the United States. The first portion of the bill was to basically deliver sanctions and discourage sanctuary city policies. But it's the balance of the bill that give further impetus, that allow officers to do what we've asked for a long time ago, which to make a discretionary phone call to ICE. The important thing, I think, to know is that the city of Phoenix has been test driving this legislation for almost 2 years, and some of the issues that we're hearing out there on the streets are unfortunately not substantive.
And now the law states that an officer has to have reasonable suspicion before asking about immigration status. And one of the opponents of this law is actually Pima County Sheriff Clarence Dupnick. He said that he doesn't plan to enforce the law, and here's why, and let's listen in.
The very controversial part of this law, which is going to be challenged immediately, is this reasonable suspicion. That is going to be declared, in my judgment, unconstitutionally vague.
Mr. Bolton, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I can't substitute my judgment for what the sheriff's intent was when responding in that fashion, but I can tell you this. There are only 3 circumstances that a police officer can make contact with a person in this country, and it doesn't matter where you're born. Voluntarily, that contact predicated upon reasonable suspicion or probable cause. That wouldn't have changed. That was the tenet before this bill, and will certainly be the case afterwards. Illegal immigration is not a race, it's conduct. Okay. Police officers deal with conduct.
Okay, and can you also answer for us, some people are saying, look, we're really worried about racial profiling, and they're worried because, you know, you're walking down the street, and even though this law says that you can't solely implement this based on race or color or country of origin. So what do you say to that?
Well, first of all, it sounds like to me you're describing a bad cop, not bad law. Racial profiling, bias policing, it's illegal. It was illegal before this statute. It's illegal and will be illegal afterwards. I think that's an issue to be taken with individual agencies. I think the law enforcement community has stood very prominently to saying that we will not countenance racial profiling or to allow race or ethnicity to be indicia of criminality. That's an absurd proposition. And frankly, law enforcement officers are starting to get a little upset with the idea that that suddenly they will become unilaterally unprofessional because of this provision.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Levi Bolton from the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. Thanks for being with us.
You're quite welcome.
And Tony, I spoke to other unions. The Arizona Police Association is supportive of the law. They're the biggest union in Arizona. While the Arizona Chiefs of Police Association, they didn't want the governor to sign it, but now that it is law, they say that their law enforcement officers will do their best to comply with it, Tony.
Boy, there was a lot in that interview. We need to parse that out and consider it. There was a lot there. Good stuff. Ines Ferre for us in New York City.